And you're very welcome to the Women's Rugby Pod, a third of the way through the Women's World Cup already. I can't believe it. And the triumvirate is back. Sarah Hunter, Red Rose's captain, and Rachael Burford. Here we are back together. You guys are out in New Zealand. How's things going in New Zealand, Sunter? For those of you just listening, Sunter is coming live to us from a rainforest. With sort of various plants and what have you around her. How are you, Sunter? Still smiling?
Yes, still smiling. No, it's going well out here. We're back down in Auckland now. Made the trip from Whangarei on Monday. Had a couple of days off and went back to training today. So yeah, back to it and prep for the big game against South Africa on Sunday.
Did you, the biggest question, and it's become a bit of a talking point of the tournament, is these games of cricket. Did you have round 3 on your way back down to Auckland?
We didn't have round 3, but we have had round 2, which Beth might be able to vouch for. We had it in the car park, in the dark, pretty much, where the players won. So we take a 2-0 lead into the Test series.
Yeah, I think the reason Miz has not gone for the cricket this week is because he said it was going to start to affect a selection, and he didn't want that to get in the way of South Africa.
I think they're out practicing. You know, they need extra time.
Bev, how's New Zealand been for you? Good to catch up with you.
Yeah, it's good, thanks, Johnny. Can I just say I actually put a complaint into the hotel, the amount of racket they were all making. And I get FOMO and I couldn't even see it out my window because they're literally playing in the pitch black. All I could hear was all of this noise. Yeah. And I also, when I turned up in Whangarei that morning, they'd obviously just celebrated the physio getting back from her marathon and they were all jumping in the pool. So they are having a whale of a time from the outside.
It's pun central. A racket, whale of a time, pool. You're on fire, Berth. You are on fire. How's commentary going? Thoroughly enjoying that?
Yeah, it's been really good fun. It's been like really entertaining, the games, and it's been great, you know, talking on different teams. Great to do the England-France game at the weekend, the one that's probably been on everyone's calendar since the pools were ever announced. So yeah, it's been great.
Well, that links us nicely into getting into some of the meat and drink of this podcast. We're going to go back through the 3 pods, just have a wee look back and then a look forward to this weekend. Really, really crucial weekend across the pools. We've got Eleanor Snowsill, the Welsh wizard, I think it's fair to say at the moment. It seems to have a ball on a string. We have a quick chat with her. Bryony Cleall. I caught up with her at the weekend at an event and got her thoughts on the England victory as well. So then, Pool C, I mentioned speaking to Bryony Cleall, of course, her twin sister, big twin sister, Poppy, is out in New Zealand. I caught up with Bryony, who was very, very kind to come to the first ever Girls Rugby Festival at Weybridge Vandals RFC down in Surrey. The Valkyries hosting 140 girls, just girls, playing from under 7s all the way up. And Bryony came and gave a really inspirational chat and handed out some medals and what have you. But I also got her thoughts on how England fared against the old enemy. The Women's Rugby Pod has come down to Weybridge Vandals on this Sunday morning. Their first ever girls' festival. It's trying to support a bit of grassroots rugby. And the lovely Bryony Cleall has come down to hand out some medals and generally do a proper inspirational job for the young ladies. Did a quick Q&A. How lovely it is to see 130-odd girls, big smiles on their faces, playing down here at Brown Acres.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a wholesome morning, simply because I've never seen a standalone under 7s, under 8s, under 9s festival of just girls, where the girls play. They mix amongst other clubs, but they played without the boys. And actually, to have the numbers, and to be able to see the girls have so much confidence, so much fun while they're doing it was so huge. And actually, it just reminds us like what we're doing, what we're out here to do when we play for the Red Roses. We're looking to inspire these kind of girls to come and play rugby, and actually this is where it's happening. And meeting all the people that are actually behind it at the grassroots level to put this on and let the girls have such an awesome morning.
You've been an absolute superstar. I know the club are hugely appreciative. Speaking of Red Roses, England-France yesterday, critical game, victory. What did you make of the performance?
Yeah, it's always a tough game. France will never shy away from playing England. They were all out there, and you saw it from the defence. I think for France, their defence was huge, and something that probably we haven't seen them show as much. It was outstanding from them, and actually for us, it really tested the Red Roses in what do we do when our driving maul isn't being as successful as it has been. What are we going to do if we're not getting as much success in our carries, for example? So it really made us think about our plan B. And look, the girls sorted it out. They won the game. They got the 4 points, and they're into the quarterfinals. So from that aspect, we can't ask for much more. But I think it's a real good test for the girls. It's maybe said to them, you know what, other teams are going to turn up for this World Cup. We're going to have to work really, 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 really hard and to keep improving, because countries out there are catching up with us, are looking to bridge the gap and do things like France did to the Red Roses yesterday.
So Sam Milton starts training again tomorrow, no doubt. What's at the very, very top of his list to sort ahead? I mean, South Africa next weekend, then we're at the quarterfinals. What's top of his to-do list come Monday morning training? Rest. Yeah, no,
absolutely. I think that was a tough game. France making over 200 tackles. It was a huge game. We had the Red Rose had a lot of the ball. But yeah, definitely rest. But actually, Mids won't change how we train. He won't change how he wants us to play. He'll just go back to the fact that make us understand that it's a really tough World Cup, and we're here and other teams are here to play. So we won't change what we do, because we know, and he knows, how good the Red Roses are. And actually, it wasn't our best performance I've seen us make. Don't get me wrong, I don't think it was a bad one, but it wasn't the best. So there's so much more progress the girls can make, and there won't be any. With nothing on the top of his list, it'll just be same old story, and we'll be looking forward to South Africa.
Last question: is it still England's to lose?
Yeah, I absolutely do think it is. I do think France is probably the team that can really push us the most. I think their attack let them down. I don't think they showed us much of their attack, but their defence was something that other countries can look at. And if you're New Zealand, you'll probably be looking and going, we need to take that into our game, and because arguably New Zealand's attack is more potent than France's. So can they do that? And but I still go back to it's England's to lose. The players we have, the way we play, I don't see us. If we play how we can play, I don't see anyone beating the Red Roses.
I'm Shani Williams, and you're listening to the Women's Rugby Pod.
What were your three main talking points then, Sunter, off the back of England-France?
I think one, that we won. We won a real tough test match. You know, when you go against France, it's going to be an arm wrestle. I think over the last few years, you know, they've been won by one score or not from either side. So, we recognise the magnitude of the game. We spoke about how we needed to be more clinical. I think we had 13 entries into their goal zone, 1 try. And we spoke about our breakdown, just haven't been better at that. France managed to get in there. Their jackal threat was in over our ball quite quickly, and just how we're going to work on that over the next few weeks. So they were probably our 3 big headlines coming out of the review.
What did you make of it, Berth?
Yeah, I think probably similar. It was such a physical contest, and I think it was really disappointing to lose Sansus and Ménager so early on. Just interested to see, the impact that they could have had on the game. But, I think it's one of those things, there's been lots of chatter around England's creativity and plan B, but ultimately they found a way to win that game. And I think that is a really good testament to the side, stuck to their processes. They nothing kind of flew, nothing threw them off course, even though France were throwing everything at them, and they found a way. They got over the try line by being patient. And I thought the way that the game ended was exceptional as well. How, again, under an immense amount of pressure, when they've just got themselves back into the game, they've got possession, and to close the game out, I think really shows the maturity of the side. I thought Zoe Harrison kicked very well, put England in the right places. So I think, as Sunter said, there are things to work on. However, they found a way, and in tight games, England often do, and that will be incredibly important as they move into knockout stages as well.
Yeah, there was a moment for me, I think it was a scrum, and Botts gets a little, Hannah Bottom gets a little hot under the collar. And then there was just a moment after the next stoppage of play. You're substituted by this point, Sunter, but I'm not sure who had said it. But it was then just complete control. Bang. Let's see this game out. We've only got a couple of minutes left. Da, da, da. And yeah, it was seamless after that. One question, I'm going to look for Sarah Hunter's reaction, but ask you, Berth. How much do you think England were holding back against France?
Mm-hmm. I think they've held some stuff back for sure, and they showed different pictures that, you know, especially around the line out. I think that they didn't show all their cards there, and I think, you know, those are kind of the areas that England can be predictable, and you can be as predictable as you like. You still got to mark it, and they're always exceptionally good at their driving maul, kicking to the corner. But I think we saw some different things, and I also think they held back on a few things as well. You don't need to show your cards in game 2.
No. And again, a brilliant reference, because Sarah Hunter should be a poker player, because there was no reaction there whatsoever. It's not something that's been sort of spoken about, and people are like, oh, Plan B's not working. Where'd you go to? I think quite a lot was held back, and yeah, if you can beat France just by doing that, then yeah, fair play. Yeah, you spoke about Laura Santos. Terrible way to, it looks like now, sort of end a career. She's been absolutely fantastic. Hasn't she, Sunter, what she like to play against?
Yeah, I mean, just your heart goes out for players when you see them leave the field in that manner, and just see how much sort of pain that she's obviously in, and it's so disappointing for the game to see a player like Sunsu, who was just at the top of her game. Like, in a World Cup, you want to see the best players in the world playing, like, regardless whether they're on your team or not. And she's like a tough player to play against. Like, when you talk about France, that she's one of the first people you talk about in terms of how she runs their game, how everything goes through her. Like, she's just such a threat in, like, with the ball. Like, she's an incredible player, and yeah, to see her go off like that and be ruled out the World Cup in what sounds like potentially her career. But I just think, you know, maybe once she's had some time, and I don't know what her plans were, year out, rehab, come back in time for 2025, and hopefully be the player that she is. I think she's still got more time. Yeah, it almost seemed like a bit, I mean, personally, for a player to be playing so well, and yeah, year on year, to sort of be sort of saying those sort of things that she was going to retire. But yeah, like, best wishes to her and her rehab and from her injury.
For those who aren't privileged enough to spend a bit of time around your squad, if you go bowling or you go for a crossbar challenge or something, there's a young lady who tends to be sort of there or thereabouts on the leaderboard, and that's a lady called Emily Scarrett. And there's little songs and chants that you do for her, because she's slightly golden girl, and it's all done in the nicest possible way. She had much grief this week about the catch pass.
Do you know what? She hasn't. Maybe
What?
I know. I think everyone was just too tired, Johnny. Like, it was a late night. Then we went on a trip, like, seeing dolphins, and then travelled back and recovering. But yeah, maybe we should have done. But I did, like, breathe a sigh of relief, because I'd not long dropped the ball earlier, and then when Scar said that, I was like, oh, that makes me feel slightly better about myself dropping it. But yeah, she's human after all, isn't she? She
is human after all. I'm not talking about dolphins, because that is utter FOMO, so we're scooting over that. Brilliant win, Berth for Fiji. First World Cup, within 2 games, they've struck up a victory.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're kicking up a bit of a storm out here, just in the way that they've played that opening half against England. You know, we touched on it before, the way that they scored their tries against England. We've not seen opposition who have had more test matches, more time together to do that. And then the way that they finished that game at the weekend was just unbelievable. Like, if you took your eyes off that game for one moment, the tides changed, then it changed again, then again. And I'm there. I think they've won the hearts of everybody out here in the style that they're playing, in the manner that they operate. And yeah, they're certainly a team that need a bit more fast tracking before 2025, because you can see they've got plenty of talent, probably need a little bit of game management, understanding, not to tap and go from everywhere, but that is them. And I loved that, they brought their Fijiana style to the World Cup and didn't try and be like anybody else. So yeah, big game for them this weekend, but I've been mega impressed with them.
Yeah, I was going to say, how much can they challenge France?
Yeah, look, I think like any team, like England, you want control in games, and they don't really give you that. And we've seen how loose France can be when they don't have control of the game, and when, they're up against an opposition that are really physical and direct. England had troubles defensively against them, but also the way that they want to play. They want to offload the ball, move the ball quickly, and they've got really good handlers. And France won't like that, imposing those kind of threats on them. So they will be a massive challenge. But, it's game 3. They had an unbelievable amount of work against that South Africa side as well, like the amount of emotion and physicality that they will be drained from that game. So it is going to be a big ask to see a turnover against France. However, France will be coming off a big emotional roller coaster as well after England, and also physical feat. So I think it's going to be thoroughly entertaining. But yeah, it will be a big ask to see them turn France over. Yeah,
it's both physically very draining games in the round 2 and different reasons. Whether France can get back up to that, and that's quite often a criticism that's sort of laid at them, isn't it? Being able to back up really good performances. What have you made of South Africa then, Sunter? No doubt done a little bit of homework on them.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a touch on Burf's point, like watching Fiji, prior to us playing them, obviously watching them back when reviewing them, and watching them when they played South Africa, like they're just a joy to watch. As just a complete rugby fan, like it's almost like that's what you want to see teams play. And I think Burf's exactly right. Give them a couple of years and a bit of investment, they could do like serious things with the talent, that the natural talent that they have as rugby players. So it should pose France some interesting problems when they face them. But in terms of South Africa, I completely agree with Burf. We were traveling when they were playing the two teams, and you kept checking the score, and 1 minute South Africa in the lead, like Fiji in the lead, then it switched, and there was like you just wish you'd actually watched it live. But South Africa, this physical side, and they can play, and they've got a decent scrum, and their 8 just wants to run through people and make great line breaks, and they want to come out, and they want to hit things, but they also want to play. They've got some skillful players in there, so we're really respectful of how they've played in the tournament and the problems that they've caused opposition. France didn't score for 40 minutes or something in their game. They were in the lead. They were like minutes from winning and beating Fiji. So that they are going to prove a tough test, and we're preparing this week like we would prepare for any other game. And we trained against them in the autumn last year, and so we've got a bit of an insight. But they've had a lot of time, a lot of test games together, and they're a certainly improved side from when we trained against them. But there were some sore bodies after that training session, because they certainly come to play, and they certainly come to hit things, that's for sure.
The bookies would make you massive favourites to win, Sunter. What represents success against South Africa?
I think
Emily's not here. You don't need to just say, "Oh, we just need to win and get 5 points." No, I want something more than that, please.
I think first and foremost it is the win. World Cup rugby is about winning rugby. But I think for us, we want to see a marked improvement on some of the areas that we've highlighted from our France review. Like we need to be seen to be improving in areas as we go through the competition. So yeah, that's certainly what will mark success for us, is like the things we've identified. Have we taken a step to get better in those areas? And things we're doing in training this week, are we putting that into the match on Sunday? So yeah, I think that will back up hopefully a win as well.
I'm Jill Burns, and you're listening to the wonderful Women's Rugby Pod.
Into Pool A then. Oh, it's been a tight pool, hasn't it? So much going on. Disciplinary hearings, great tries, tense, last-minute drama. Wales have put their destiny in their own hands. Got to beat Australia to guarantee a quarter-final spot, and it's certainly within their reach. And a lady at the forefront of that at the moment has been a little Welsh wizard at present. Eleanor Snowsill joins us on the pod. The Welsh wizard, I think, is a fair description so far this World Cup. Elle, thanks so much for joining us. How's New Zealand treating you so far? The whole tournament, the whole experience.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, it's brilliant, to be fair. I've been to New Zealand once before and absolutely love it as a country. Love the culture and how obsessed they are with their rugby. Reminds me a little bit of Wales, especially with all the mountains and everything. So, feel a little bit at home here, even though, we're all the way on the other side of the world. In terms of the tournament, it's far bigger than any other World Cup I've been involved in. So it's really exciting to be a part of that.
Yeah, you've been involved in a few, played New Zealand a couple of times as well. We can just nip back to that opening game. There was bags and bags of pressure on that game. That was fairly evident to see for the action of both teams come the final whistle. But if we can just look at your individual performance, I was lucky enough to call the game with Rachael Taylor, and she quite simply said, and I certainly agree, probably one of your best, if not your best game in a Welsh shirt. How happy with where Eleanor Snowsill is at the moment?
Well, thank you. That's a huge compliment. I think just for me, being able to be professional for, since January has had a huge impact on my performances. I knew it would make a difference. And I knew, before then I was only operating at about 50-60% of what I was capable of. And just really fortunate now that, I've worked hard on areas of the game I needed to work on, and that it's sort of showing on the world stage.
What specific areas would you be speaking about?
Well, two big work-ons, and I think for me being dropped for the last game of the Six Nations against Italy was what really hit home with me and made me realise, I either sort of finish off my career at where I am now, or I really think no, I can go again, but I've got to work on these areas, and the two areas were physicality, my defence, and kicking. So. Johan and Whiff, both coaches, have been brilliant in terms of backing me and giving me full confidence. I've even been hitting Johan on the pad a few times, having him run at me, because as a 10, you mainly have forwards running down your channel. So, whatever it took, they did it for me. And, in addition to having Stephen Myler kicking once a week with us, just all those little things that sort of, when you're doing it, you don't realise, that you're getting better at it. But then you do it for so long, and then you get to performance and you realise, that it's all come together quite nicely.
It's almost a given when Wales are at World Cups that you meet New Zealand in your pool. You've done it a couple of times, the last two World Cups. Yeah. How was it last time? How was it a harker on New Zealand soil?
Yeah, it was just, a very special occasion. I think every time you face a hacker, it's such a unique experience that not many people, most people watch it on the TV. Not many people get to actually stand there and experience it. And for me, I love it. I love that side of things. And yeah, like you said, on home soil, it was even more special.
Let's look ahead then to Australia. Another key one. Your destiny is in your hands. Is there that sense, that crackle at training this week?
Yeah, we've had a day off yesterday, so we're feeling pretty refreshed coming into training today. I think tomorrow will be the big session for us, where we'll really get stuck into things. Just been putting our plays down and stuff today, which is good. But really looking forward to the challenge. They are, I've played Australia again we played them twice in 2014, I think, and they are one of the most.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, they are one of the most physical teams I've played against. When I was coming up through the ranks, when I was sort of 18, 19, the senior girls in the squad always used to say France were the most physical team, in terms of off the ball stuff and all that. But as soon as we faced Australia in 2014, that changed and it became Australia. And that hasn't changed so far in the World Cup. So we've got to be up for a physical battle.
Yeah, you certainly do. Just finally from me, Elle. You're there, and as you say, we're discussing been to a couple of World Cups before. Just how excited are you at the potential of this group with where it's at now? We've already mentioned professionalism and what have you. How excited are you, not only in the next couple of weeks, but just moving beyond that as well?
Yeah, I'm really excited for the future. In terms of the coaching setup we've got in, they're just brilliant coaches and really know how to get the best out of us. And two, these contracts, it's only going to draw more and more young players to the game. I was fortunate enough to go down to an under-20 session before we came away to the World Cup, and the talent there is just outstanding. So it's really exciting that there's a pathway and there's something for those girls to sort of aspire to, and there's also the talent. So if that can all come together with good coaching, I think we'll hopefully be pretty unstoppable in the future.
Oh, brilliant. You're speaking as well as you're playing at the moment. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope your rich vein of form carries on, and we wish you all the very, very best against Australia.
Thanks very much, Johnny. Nice to chat to you.
I'm Kate Zachary, and you are listening to the Women's Rugby Pod.
Great to hear from Ellen Snowsill. For me, having won that Scotland game, then they know round 3 they've got Australia. I don't know whether mentally they were, subconsciously, certainly, because of course they always go out to win the game, but subconsciously whether they weren't quite at the races against New Zealand. Certainly parts of the game were very good, Berth.
Yeah, I think they started really well and they put a lot of pressure onto New Zealand and pressured their set piece. And, Wales's set piece was really good as well, like their driving line out, their scrum. But then it was almost like New Zealand just started to play a little bit and then they sat off and almost like, we've got to watch what they do, then we'll attack them. And then I think that's when kind of the floodgates opened. It was, allowing the threats of Ruby Tui, Woodman, Renee Wetcliffe, like just attacking at them instead of imposing themselves on them. And I think as soon as they kind of backed off it slightly, New Zealand sniffed that out and took it. And I think then that continued through the game and they really struggled, even with, New Zealand had 2 yellow cards, didn't they? Or was it 1 yellow card? 18 penalties,
yeah.
Even that score with that amount of ill discipline, you would have expected more from Wales, especially how they started. But I think it's kind of that old, they don't 2 yellow cards yet. They don't get to play them. I mean, when was the last time that these two met? And that kind of fear factor, and like we used to be there with England, it was like, oh my God, we're playing against this incredible team, and they are, and you give them that level of respect. But I think until you're immune to a little bit of that, you almost give too much respect. And I think by the end of that game, they went within themselves and definitely could have put more pressure on, could have got a couple more tries as well. So they'll be looking back thinking, we let New Zealand off the hook. I don't think it would have been enough to win, but for that scoreline, I think they'll be thinking, cool, we gave some cheap opportunities away there.
So half an eye or slightly more on New Zealand and what they're up to?
If I'm completely honest, probably not. As much as it's we've sort of watched it and like little bits, highlights, and sort of have kept an eye on the result and things around it. But like our focus has to be on the teams that we're playing. Like, and then you throw in the fact that you need to mentally and physically like recover as well. So I think yeah, we watch some games, but we don't sit down there and analyze them in depth around like how they're playing, what they're doing. Like minute by minute of them, we're like purely respecting the teams that we're playing, and like if we come to face New Zealand, we'll look at them, we'll analyse them, and we'll think about it then.
Scotland, I did a tweet. I just said, "Oh, Scotland." Heart goes out to them. It's another heartbreaking loss. Right at the death of it, Australia, 2 red cards. Either of you bumped into any of the Scotland girls out there? Give them a hug. Where are they at ahead of New Zealand this weekend? Which, you know, if there's one game to get up for, the host nation at the home World Cup, that's got to be a good one to get up for, right?
Yeah, it's still such an incredible opportunity, isn't it? Playing against New Zealand in New Zealand, again, a team that they don't often face. I don't even know when they last faced one another. I mean, it was 20 years since Scotland had played Australia, so it's probably not far from that. But I think after that game, they were very emotional. And I think because they knew another second week, they knew they could have won that game. They started so well and they maintained for 75 minutes of that game to be in front. And I don't know what it is, but that's, I think, like the 3rd or 4th game where they've been winning, leading, and then they lose it in the final moments. But I think for them, look, they know what the task that they had this weekend is about, finishing on their terms and making sure that they enjoy themselves, play really hard like they have been, really give, you know, their family and friends who've come over here an opportunity again to support them. But yeah, I think, you know, they really struggled after the Wales game as well. Like a lot of the players struggled to move on, because you can always get over the ones where you weren't good enough or the opposition were a lot better, but where you know you had chances to win the game and you should have won the game, they're the ones that are really, really tough to take and to actually get over. And, you know, it's been 2 weeks running again for them. But for me, I think they're going to just be like, this is our last opportunity. We haven't been in a World Cup since 2010. Let's make sure we enjoy ourselves. Let's get around one another and let's make sure that we finish on our terms and we finish. And you can't, one of the big things that they keep saying after every game is the effort that the group put in, and that you cannot fault. And so I'd expect like a massive effort from the whole squad again this weekend.
Yeah, but effort doesn't win test matches. Nobody doubts. I mean, all you have to do is file in behind Rachel Malcolm, who's just an outstanding leader of human beings. But it's, you know, effort is you know, at this level is not going to get you over the line. Pool B has been one of the fascinating pools. For me personally, USA, Canada, Italy, Japan in there as well. Canada doing Canada things at World Cups, just being really, really business-like.
Yeah, you know, they'd come in really well drilled, and I actually met with a group of them today, and they were kind of telling me the story. I'm not sure if you've covered this on the pod, around how they got together over the summer, took it upon themselves to all live with one another in Victoria and then over in Halifax, and you can just see that that's paying off. Quite a simple game plan, but a really effective one. And I feel like France, England and New Zealand are probably taking all the limelight, and they're just simmering nicely under the radar.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And they're up against USA this weekend, Sunter. Those close rivalries are always good fun. You played plenty of club rugby with Canadian girls and USA girls in the league as well. They'll be thoroughly looking forward to this one, won't they?
Yeah, they will be. This will probably be the match, you know, of the pool that they, I guess, when it was all that draw back, 2-3 years ago now, this was probably one that stood out in terms of like old rivals over years and years and years, and you know, it's all sort of heated up for this final game. And I think I agree with Burf, like Canada are sort of going under the radar a little bit, and as you say, they always generally do well in World Cups, and this seems like it's no different, but I'm sure America will be up for it. You know, they had a good result against Japan. I think it's what they needed. They've had prep, and it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I don't think there's any love lost between the two. No,
there definitely isn't. And yeah, these bonus points are just huge to squeezing into those quarterfinals. Of course, it's top two and then two best runners up. At the moment, as it stands, and this is Sarah Mockford from Rugby World who's put this together, much greater mind than mine. New Zealand are in top seeding position with Canada 10 points, England third with 9, France 6, Italy 5, Australia 4, Wales, USA 7 with 5, and then Wales 8th on 4. I can't really see that changing much with the fixtures this weekend.
No, I mean, never say never at a World Cup, and I think actually what's great, the fact that we're going into the final round of pool games, and we've now got a quarterfinal, so people have still got everything to play for. You know, people have got those sort of knockout stages to try and get themselves in and amongst it, you know, with getting bonus points, with getting wins. So I think that's what makes it exciting. Whereas I think by now we probably would have known who was going through to the semi-finals, and we haven't had that extra round. So I think it just adds hope, maybe a bit of drama to the first stage of people going through and into the knockout stages. But yeah, I guess only time will tell whether teams do manage to pull something out, and you know, World Cup miracles can happen. So yeah, exciting round of games.
But if anyone challenged that 8 as it stands?
I don't think so. I think
got your abacus out.
I think, you know, Japan, Italy will be interesting. You saw some good stuff come from Japan in the end against USA, probably a bit slow starting, unforced errors, but they got a big job. They'll have to beat them by a certain amount of points to nudge a spot. Can't really see, you know, Scotland beating New Zealand. Can't see South Africa doing the job either. So I think it's thereabouts is what we're looking at. But again, maybe it might shift 1 or 2 places depending. But I think that's probably our 8 that we're looking for the quarterfinals.
We're not going to ask Sunter, that would be slightly unfair. But the 2 tightest ones for me this weekend would be Wales, Australia. Who wins that?
I think Australia. Yeah.
There we are, and we've just lost all of our Welsh listeners. Outstanding.
I don't think they've played particularly well, or a complete game. And I think Wales, you know, really held on to that result against Scotland. They'll be wounded from the New Zealand game. And yeah, I just think Australia got a bit more in them to come out yet. And I think that will be what can take it over the edge.
Yeah, be without their hooker, won't they?
Yeah.
Masters.
It's a shame. She's
yeah,
a good
it is.
player.
Yeah, he's a good player. Canada, USA. Canada win?
Yeah. I think that's an easy call. I think it will be challenging initially, but I think Canada will break them down.
Japan, Italy.
I'm going to back Italy. I kind of want Japan to win, but I think Italy. But they're pretty battered, the Italians. The pack are pretty sore. But yeah, I just think they're coming together really nicely. Like Sunter talked about it earlier about how building through a tournament, building on your success and your wins, and you can just see they're getting better and better from every minute that they're playing. And I think this will be another step up from them that we'll see.
Ladies, it has been an absolute treat. It's Betty Bye's time for you two. Little glass of milk and a and a biscuit. I don't. Perhaps that's what you don't know. No, birthday is like smashing tequila shots back. You know, by herself.
Hey, I'm Polish. Vodka. Get it right.
Sorry. Yeah,
my mum would be disappointed with you.
Yeah, you're quite right. Shout out, Sunter. You got a shout out, haven't you?
I have indeed. So last weekend, I saw Yeovil Rugby Club host a historic women's sporting event. It was the first time the women's first 15 and newly formed development team took to the pitches at Yeovil on the same day. An amazing 44 women represented Yeovil in their respective matches. So Marley Packer will be very proud.
Wouldn't she just? And there's all sorts of brilliant things going on. Watch parties. I think down at Illing and Rinwood, you could have a Scarrett breakfast or a Cleall breakfast. The ironic thing was that the Scarrett breakfast had 2 sausages and the Cleall breakfast had 1 sausage. Anyway, loads of great things going on. Absolute pleasure to see you both. Thanks so much for your time. Good luck on the weekend, Sunter. Good luck on Comms Birth. What are you on?
I'm on Scotland, Australia.
Awesome.
No, New Zealand.
Scotland, New Zealand. There you are. Yep. I know how you feel. On that note,
Yeah.
see you next week.
Bye.
See ya. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.